The void of space trembled with anticipation as the Zeran scout fleet emerged from hyperspace, their sleek crystalline vessels cutting through the darkness like razor-sharp predators. Captain Lyrek Thax stood on the bridge of the flagship, Stellar Dominance, her iridescent scales shifting with an unconscious blend of curiosity and contempt. Another routine border patrol, another sector to be claimed for the Zeran Confederacy. But something was different this time. A massive silhouette hung motionless against the starfield, a vessel that defied every known classification in the Zeran stellar archives. Its hull seemed to absorb starlight rather than reflect it, a matte black behemoth that looked more like a weapon than a ship. No standard energy signatures, no recognizable propulsion markers, just presence. Sensors, report, Thax commanded, her voice a melodic chirp that carried centuries of racial superiority. Her junior science officer, Rentok, frantically manipulated holographic displays. Captain, the vessel. It's not matching any known configuration. Our long-range scanners can't penetrate its hull. It's as if. He paused, mandibles clicking in confusion, as if the ship is actively refusing to be scanned. The bridge of the Stellar Dominance hummed with nervous energy. The Zeran Confederacy had encountered hundreds of species during their millennia of galactic expansion. Some surrendered immediately. Some fought futilely. None had ever simply waited. Aboard the mysterious vessel, Commander Elena Rodriguez stood perfectly still, her cybernetic eye, a gleaming silver replacement that spoke of battles long past, scanning the Zeran fleet with calculated precision. The bridge of the U.S. Defiance was a study in controlled tension. Unlike the ornate, crystalline design of Zeran ships, this human vessel was brutally functional. Every surface served a purpose, every system designed for maximum efficiency. Rodriguez spoke softly to the ship's eye. Analysis of the Zeran fleet. A holographic display materialized, showing detailed schematics of each alien vessel. Weaknesses danced across the projection. Power conduit vulnerabilities, shield frequency instabilities, tactical blind spots that would make a first-year human cadet laugh. Threat assessment. Minimal. The AI's voice was neither triumphant nor dismissive. Pure, clinical information. Zeran technology represents approximately 37.6% of current human defensive capabilities. Recommended approach. Diplomatic engagement with demonstrative capacity. Rodriguez's lips curled into the barest hint of a smile. Diplomacy, human style. On the Stellar Dominance, Captain Thax decided to make first contact. Her communication officer prepared the standard Zeran first contact protocol, a carefully crafted message that had brought countless species to their knees in submission. Unidentified vessel. The transmission began, dripping with condescension. You have entered Zeran Confederacy-controlled space. State your purpose and prepare for standard processing and potential conscription. The response was, nothing. Seconds stretched into minutes. The Zeran fleet grew increasingly agitated. No species had ever ignored a direct Zeran communication. It was unthinkable. Then, a single transmission. This is Commander Elena Rodriguez of the United Systems Navy, Expeditionary Fleet, Vessel U.S. Defiance. We acknowledge your communication. The message was simple, straightforward, devoid of the expected fear or subservience. Rentok looked up at Captain Thax, mandibles trembling. They didn't even ask permission. Thax's scales rippled with a mixture of anger and something else, something that felt remarkably like fear. Lieutenant Marcus Chen, the Defiance's communication officer, watched the alien reactions with professional detachment. Another first contact. Another opportunity to showcase humanity's unique approach to interstellar relations. The human ship didn't move, didn't posture. It simply existed. A silent challenge to everything the Zeran Confederacy believed about power, hierarchy, and their place in the universe. Rodriguez murmured, prepare initial engagement protocols. Let's show them what humanity means by peaceful exploration. Outside, The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The unexpected encounter had begun. The quantum disruptor charged with a high-pitched whine that had broken the spirits of 1,000 civilizations. Captain Cathax allowed herself a moment of anticipation. This weapon represented the pinnacle of Zeren military technology, a device capable of unraveling molecular bonds with surgical precision. Its energy signature alone had caused entire planetary governments to surrender without a single shot fired. "Weapon systems locked," announced Rentok, his voice trembling with a mixture of excitement and professional pride. "Target locked on the human vessel. Quantum disruptor at maximum charge." The bridge of the stellar dominance erupted in a chorus of anticipatory clicks and chirps. The Zeren crew knew what was coming. Another primitive species about to be reduced to atomic dust. Another testament to the Confederacy's ultimate technological supremacy. The quantum disruptor fired. A lance of pure energy erupted from the Zeren flagship, a brilliant beam that seemed to tear the very fabric of spacetime. It was a weapon that had reduced entire space stations to clouds of rapidly dispersing atoms, a weapon that made nuclear weapons look like children's sparklers. But something extraordinary happened. The U.S. Defiance absorbed the attack. Not deflected, not redirected, absorbed. The ship's hull, which had appeared matte black, seemed to ripple momentarily, like water disturbed by a stone. The quantum energy that should have instantaneously vaporized the vessel was instead consumed. On the bridge of the Defiance, Araya's holographic interface pulsed with intricate mathematical calculations. Quantum disruptor energy captured. Conversion efficiency 92.7%. Energy redistribution commencing. Commander Rodriguez watched with clinical detachment as the ship's adaptive matrix processed the incoming energy. Years of human innovation, born from desperate survival on harsh colonial worlds, refined through countless technological challenges, had created something beyond mere defensive technology. The Zeren bridge fell silent. Rentok's scanning equipment went haywire. The quantum disruptor's energy wasn't just being blocked, it was being analyzed, understood, and then systematically transformed into usable power for the human vessel. Diagnostic screens showed the Defiance's power systems actually gaining energy from what should have been a devastating attack. "Impossible," Cathax whispered, her voice a mixture of terror and scientific disbelief. Lieutenant Chen's fingers danced across his communication console. With surgical precision, he began broadcasting a series of mathematical sequences, a deliberate demonstration of the technological process occurring before the Zeren eyes. It wasn't just a show of power, it was an educational display revealing the underlying principles of the energy conversion without giving away all their technological secrets. The broadcast included snippets of human scientific history, glimpses of how humanity had transformed seemingly insurmountable challenges into breakthrough technologies, images of early climate restoration projects, molecular reconstruction techniques developed during the Mars Rebellion, quantum adaptive materials first created in the desperate years of resource scarcity. Each transmission was a carefully curated message. We are not just surviving. We are evolving. Araya's voice cut through the tension. Quantum disruptor energy fully integrated. Weapon systems neutralized. Defensive matrix optimized. On the Zeren flagship, panic began to spread. This wasn't just technological superiority. This was a fundamental reimagining of what technology could be. The quantum disruptor, the pride of the Zeren military, had become nothing more than a power source for the human vessel. Commander Rodriguez allowed herself a slight smile. "Prepare standard communication protocols, Lieutenant Chen. Let's have a conversation." The U.S. Defiance remained motionless, a testament to controlled power. Its very existence was a challenge to everything the Zeren Confederacy understood about technological capability. Not a weapon of destruction, but a living example of adaptive innovation. Outside, the stars seemed to pause, bearing witness to a moment that would redefine galactic understanding of technological potential. The technological challenge had been issued, and humanity had responded in a way no one could have anticipated. The communication began subtly, almost imperceptibly. Lieutenant Marcus Chen's fingers moved with surgical precision across the holographic interface, initiating a broadcast that would systematically dismantle the Zaran Confederacy's psychological defenses. First came the historical records, not glorified propaganda, but raw, unfiltered human history. Zaran communication arrays were flooded with imagery that defied comprehension. Scenes of Earth's darkest moments, massive coastal cities abandoned to rising seas, sprawling megastructures built from the ruins of environmental collapse, generations of humans fighting not just for survival, but for the very concept of hope. Images of the Mars Rebellion flickered across Zaran screens, colonists transforming a dead planet through sheer human determination. Massive terraforming projects that should have been impossible, executed with a combination of scientific brilliance and unbreakable human spirit. Children born in artificial environments, their bodies adapted to impossible conditions, their eyes reflecting generations of resilience. The Titan uprisings followed, a conflict that had nearly torn humanity apart, but instead became a crucible of technological and social innovation. Entire societies rebuilt from the ground up, systemic inequalities challenged and transformed, a species learning from its most profound mistakes in real time. Araya, the Defiance's AI, curated the transmission with mathematical precision. Each image, each historical fragment was a carefully selected piece of a larger psychological puzzle. On the stellar dominance, Captain Cathax watched in growing horror. This wasn't just a communication. It was a systematic deconstruction of everything the Zaran Confederacy believed about power, survival, and civilization. Rentok, the junior science officer, found himself transfixed. The human broadcasts revealed a species that didn't just survive challenges. They transformed them into opportunities for growth. Economic collapses became economic revolutions. Technological limitations became catalysts for unprecedented innovation. The psychological warfare went deeper. Alongside the historical records came scientific data. Not just achievements, but the process of achievement. Humans showed their failures, their mistakes, their iterative approach to problem solving. Each failure was a stepping stone, each setback a lesson learned. The Zarans had always presented themselves as a perfect, unchanging civilization. Humanity revealed itself as a dynamic, constantly evolving organism. Transmission fragments revealed human medical breakthroughs developed during planetary pandemics. Agricultural technologies created from decades of environmental challenges. Energy systems that transformed human civilization's greatest threats into sustainable solutions. Commander Rodriguez watched the transmission with clinical detachment. This wasn't just about showing human capabilities. It was about revealing a fundamental approach to existence, adaptability as the ultimate survival strategy. Psychological profile analysis, Araya reported. Zaran Cultural Shock Index, rising. Potential systemic breakdown, 68.3% probability within current communication cycle. The bridge crew of the Defiance remained calm. This was diplomacy, human style, not conquest, but a comprehensive demonstration of potential. Lieutenant Chen adjusted the transmission frequencies, ensuring maximum penetration of Zaran communication networks. Each fragment was a carefully constructed narrative, not of human superiority, but of human potential. On the stellar dominance, Captain Cathax felt something she had never experienced before. Doubt. The psychological warfare had begun, and humanity's weapon was nothing more than its own unfiltered history. The moment of action arrived with surgical precision. Commander Elena Rodriguez didn't move, didn't speak. Her cybernetic eye, a gleaming silver testament to human resilience, calculated trajectories and potential outcomes faster than any Zaran biological system could comprehend. Deployment sequence initiated, Araya reported, her voice a calm counterpoint to the impending demonstration. Nanoconstruct drones erupted from the U.S. Defiance like a swarm of intelligent mercury. Each drone was a marvel of human engineering, adaptive, self-replicating systems that represented decades of technological evolution. They weren't weapons of destruction, but instruments of calculated neutralization. The first Zaran support ship found its weapon systems gently, systematically disabled. Not destroyed. Not blown apart. Simply neutralized. Rentok watched in horror as his ship's most advanced defensive systems were methodically bypassed. The nanoconstructs didn't just breach defenses, they understood them. Molecular-level manipulations occurred with such precision that the ship's systems remained fundamentally intact, just inert. Tactical nullification complete. ARI reported. 0 casualties. Minimal systemic damage. Each Zaran vessel experienced the same treatment. Weapon arrays rendered harmless. Communication systems isolated. Propulsion mechanisms locked into a passive state. The entire Zaran fleet was transformed from a potential threat into a collection of temporarily inoperable vessels. It was a demonstration of power that transcended traditional military doctrine. Commander Rodriguez understood something fundamental about conflict that the Zaran Confederacy had never comprehended. True power wasn't about destruction. It was about control. Precision. The ability to neutralize a threat without eliminating the potential for future cooperation. Lieutenant Chen began broadcasting again. This time, the transmission included detailed schematics of the neutralization process. Not to humiliate, but to educate. To show that humanity's approach to conflict was fundamentally different. The nanoconstructs began to withdraw, leaving each Zaran vessel exactly as they had found it, just temporarily unable to pose a threat. Captain Cathax found her communication systems unexpectedly active, a direct transmission from Commander Rodriguez. "We're not here to destroy." The human commander's voice was clinical, professional. "We're here to communicate." The tactical demonstration revealed something far more terrifying than military might. It showed a species that could neutralize an entire fleet without firing a single destructive shot. A species that viewed conflict not as a problem to be solved through violence, but as a challenge to be addressed through intelligence and precision. Araya's final report was a masterpiece of understatement. Tactical objective achieved. Minimal systemic disruption. Maximum informational transfer completed. On the bridge of the Defiance, the crew remained calm. This was just another first contact. Another opportunity to showcase humanity's unique approach to interstellar relations. The stars outside seemed to hold their breath, bearing witness to a redefinition of what military power could mean. The tactical demonstration was complete, and the Zaran Confederacy would never be the same. The Zaran intelligence analysis teams worked with a desperation born of mounting terror. Every transmission, every fragment of human history they uncovered challenged everything they believed about civilization, survival, and progress. Holographic displays in their central research facilities became windows into a species that defied comprehension. Humanity wasn't just a civilization. It was a living, breathing evolutionary algorithm. They discovered a species that had transformed every potential extinction event into a catalyst for innovation. Climate collapse. Humanity didn't just survive, they redesigned entire planetary ecosystems. Massive floating cities emerged from rising oceans. Atmospheric reconstruction technologies turned hostile environments into sustainable habitats. Where other species would have surrendered, humans saw an engineering challenge. Resource wars that would have torn other civilizations apart became the birthplace of unprecedented technological breakthroughs. The Mars Rebellion wasn't just a conflict, it was a complete societal reconstruction. An entire generation of humans had adapted their biology, their social structures, their entire way of thinking to survive in an environment that should have been impossible. Zaran researchers found themselves watching recordings of human educational systems, not just academic training, but comprehensive life adaptation protocols. Children learn not just scientific facts, but how to think, how to adapt, how to transform limitations into opportunities. The quantum adaptive learning models were something entirely new. Education wasn't about memorization, but about developing cognitive flexibility. Problem-solving wasn't a skill, it was a fundamental approach to existence. Biological adaptation studies revealed something even more shocking. Humans didn't just modify their environment, they modified themselves. Generations of space colonists had developed cellular-level adaptations that allowed them to thrive in environments that would kill other species within moments. A particular recording captured the Zaran researchers' attention. It showed the reconstruction of New Jakarta, a city that had been almost completely destroyed by rising sea levels and catastrophic storms. Instead of abandoning the location, humans had transformed it into a marvel of ecological engineering. Vertical farms integrated into living architecture, ocean current energy systems, adaptive building materials that could literally heal themselves. ARIA, monitoring the Zaran research efforts, carefully curated the information flow. Each transmission was a calculated revelation, showing capability without revealing all vulnerabilities. The psychological impact was devastating. The Zaran Confederacy had always viewed themselves as the pinnacle of galactic civilization. Technological superiority was their entire cultural identity. Now they were confronted with a species that viewed technology not as a weapon of control, but as a tool of collective survival and growth. Rentok, the junior science officer who had first detected the human vessel, found himself experiencing something unprecedented in Zaran culture: genuine intellectual humility. "We are not advanced," he whispered to his research team. "We are stagnant." The cultural revelation went beyond technological capabilities. Humanity's social structures were equally fascinating. They had transformed historical conflicts into opportunities for systemic improvement. Societal challenges became catalysts for fundamental redesign of governance, economic systems, and collective problem-solving. The Zaran Confederacy was experiencing a civilizational crisis. Everything they believed about power, progress, and potential was being systematically dismantled by a species they had initially considered primitive. Commander Rodriguez's strategy was brilliant in its simplicity. This wasn't conquest. This was education. The cultural shock had begun, and humanity had weaponized information itself. The Zaran High Council chamber erupted in chaos. What had begun as a routine border patrol had transformed into an existential crisis that threatened the very foundations of their millennia-old civilization. Captain Kathak stood at the center of a maelstrom of political fury. Her once pristine diplomatic robes now rumpled, her iridescent scales dulled by the weight of emerging revelations. "We cannot be seeing what we're seeing," proclaimed Elder Vornak, the most senior member of the council. His voice trembled, a sound unprecedented in Zaran political history. The Zarans had never known fear. Until now. Holographic displays circled the chamber, showing fragments of human history. Each image was a knife cutting into the Confederacy's carefully constructed narrative of superiority. Planetary reconstruction projects. Technological innovations born from absolute desperation. Social systems that transformed failure into opportunity. Rentok, now elevated from junior science officer to primary intelligence analyst, presented the most damning report in Zaran historical records. His mandibles clicked with a mixture of professional precision and barely contained existential dread. "Our entire technological infrastructure is fundamentally obsolete," he announced. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. The chamber fell silent. Political factions that had existed for centuries began to fracture. The military doctrine wing, which had always prided itself on technological supremacy, found itself completely invalidated. Their quantum disruptor, the ultimate weapon that had brought countless civilizations to their knees, had been absorbed and repurposed by a single human vessel as casually as one might swat an insect. "How is this possible?" demanded Counselor Sarath, her scales shifting through rapid color changes that betrayed her internal panic. The Zaran communication protocols, which had never been challenged in over 7 galactic centuries, had been systematically dismantled by a species they had considered barely worth cataloging. The human transmissions continued, not as attacks, not as threats, but as a comprehensive education. Each broadcast revealed not just technological capabilities, but a fundamental approach to existence that the Zarans had never comprehended. Adaptation wasn't just a survival strategy. It was a way of life. Political systems that had remained unchanged for millennia began to crack. The centralized control that had defined Zaran civilization suddenly looked like stagnation, not strength. Younger Zaran politicians, those who had only known the comfort of established power, found themselves questioning everything. Intelligence reports revealed the true horror. Humanity hadn't just developed advanced technologies. They had created entire civilizational models that could transform themselves in real time. Educational systems that weren't about memorization, but about developing cognitive flexibility. Governance structures that could completely redesign themselves in response to challenges. The military doctrine wing collapsed first. Their entire strategic framework, built on technological superiority and aggressive expansion, became nothing more than a museum piece. Senior military leaders found themselves obsolete, their lifetime of experience rendered meaningless by a single encounter. Economic systems began to unravel. Trade routes that had been established for centuries suddenly looked inefficient. The Zaran economic model, which had always prioritized control over innovation, found itself completely outmoded. Captain Cathax realized something fundamental. This wasn't a military encounter. This was a civilizational challenge that went beyond weapons or technology. Humanity had introduced a virus far more dangerous than any weapon, a concept of continuous, adaptive evolution. We are not defeated. Elder Vornak tried to rally the council, but his voice lacked conviction. We are merely challenged. But everyone knew the truth. The Zaran Confederacy was experiencing its first true existential crisis. Not from external conquest, but from the simple demonstration of an alternative way of existing. The U.S. Defiance hadn't fired a single weapon. It had simply existed, a living demonstration of what was possible when a species refused to accept limitations. As the Council descended into heated debates, one thing became crystal clear: nothing would ever be the same again. The encounter with humanity had become the defining moment of Zaran civilization, the point where everything changed. The internal collapse had begun, and humanity hadn't fired a single shot. Commander Elena Rodriguez understood the art of negotiation was far more complex than simply presenting terms. As the U.S. Defiance maintained its position, she prepared humanity's most sophisticated diplomatic offering. Not a demand, but a comprehensive invitation to evolution. Araria, the ship's AI, had calculated every potential response with quantum-level precision. The proposition would be both a challenge and an opportunity, designed to reveal humanity's true intentions without appearing threatening. Transmission prepared. Lieutenant Marcus Chen reported, his fingers hovering over the communication interface. The first transmission was a complete surprise to the Zaran Confederacy. Instead of demands or threats, humanity offered something unprecedented: a full technological and cultural exchange program. But this was no simple data transfer. It was a revolutionary concept of mutual development. Humanity proposed a joint research initiative that would address some of the most significant challenges facing both civilizations: planetary restoration technologies developed during Earth's climate crisis, adaptive medical systems created in the crucibles of interplanetary colonization, energy generation techniques that had transformed human survival in the most hostile environments. The catch: complete equality. No hierarchical structures, no master-client relationships. A true partnership where both species would contribute and benefit equally. Zaran analysts worked frantically to understand the underlying motivations. Every previous encounter with expanding civilizations had followed a predictable pattern of conquest or subjugation. This was something entirely different. The technological packages humanity offered were breathtaking. Ecological reconstruction algorithms that could transform dying planets into living ecosystems. Quantum adaptive learning systems that could revolutionize education. Medical nanite technologies that could eliminate entire categories of genetic diseases. But it wasn't just about technology. The human proposition included comprehensive cultural exchange programs, educational frameworks that didn't just transfer information, but taught entire new ways of thinking, social adaptation models that had allowed humanity to survive and thrive through multiple near-extinction events. Captain Cathax found herself staring at the transmission, her entire understanding of galactic relations fundamentally challenged. This wasn't a conquest. This was an invitation to a different way of existing. Eraria monitored the Zaran communication networks, carefully managing the information flow. Each transmission was a carefully constructed narrative, showing capability without revealing all vulnerabilities, demonstrating potential without appearing threatening. The most radical element of the proposition was its underlying philosophy. No species develops in isolation. True progress comes from mutual understanding, not competitive domination. Younger Zaran politicians and scientists found themselves captivated. The older guard, trapped in millennia of established thinking, found the concept terrifying. Commander Rodriguez watched the unfolding communication with clinical detachment. This was diplomacy at its most sophisticated, an offering that challenged everything the Zaran Confederacy believed about power, progress, and potential. The human proposition was simple yet revolutionary: evolve together or remain stagnant alone. And the Zaran Confederacy was about to make the most important decision in its historical existence. The moment stretched into eternity. The U.S. Defiance hung motionless against the starfield, a silent monument to a civilizational transformation that was about to unfold. Commander Elena Rodriguez watched the Zaran communication arrays with her cybernetic eye, processing millions of data points per second, waiting. Eraya's voice cut through the bridge's tension. Zaran High Council decision imminent. Probability matrix suggests 73.6% chance of positive response. Lieutenant Marcus Chen's communication console began to pulse with incoming transmissions, not weapons signatures, not defensive protocols, but the first tentative steps of a species beginning to understand that survival wasn't about conquest, it was about adaptation. The Zaran response came not from their military, not from their political leadership, but from an unexpected source: their scientific community. Young Zaran researchers, those who had been most exposed to the human transmissions, began broadcasting their own analysis. They weren't asking for permission. They were presenting a comprehensive argument for why the human proposition represented the most significant opportunity in Zaran historical records. Rentok, once a junior science officer, now found himself at the forefront of a civilizational transformation. His research teams had decoded not just the technological offerings, but the fundamental human approach to innovation. "We are not accepting a proposal," his transmission declared. "We are participating in a mutual evolution." The stars themselves seemed to pause, bearing witness. Humanity hadn't conquered the Zaran Confederacy. They had offered something far more powerful: a chance to reimagine what civilization could be. Not through force, not through threat, but through the simple demonstration of an alternative way of existing. Commander Rodriguez allowed herself the barest hint of a smile. The U.S. Defiance began to power its primary systems, not for combat, not for threat, but for the first stages of a comprehensive cultural exchange. Each system activation was a carefully choreographed demonstration of capabilities balanced with restraint. Eraria's final report was a masterpiece of understatement. Civilizational integration protocols initiated. Mutual development sequence optimal. On distant human colonies in research stations scattered across multiple star systems, humanity watched. Not with triumph, not with conquest, but with a profound understanding that every encounter was an opportunity for growth. The Zaran Confederacy was about to learn what humanity had known for generations. True strength isn't about domination. It's about the capacity to understand, to adapt, to evolve. As the first joint research transmission began, something fundamental changed in the galaxy. A new paradigm had begun.